Good morning. It's April 11th, 2022. This is To My Liberal Friends, and I'm John Haddo. Yesterday, in part one of this two-part series, I talked about some of the issues that are facing this country and how it's impacting the Democrats in the upcoming election. Anybody who reads the polls knows that Democrats are falling in the poll, and President Biden's approval rating is hovering at 40% or below in just about every factor. I listed yesterday 5 issues that I think are important to voters that are being ignored right now by the Biden administration, and what Republicans need to do is focus on these issues. So let's take them in order. First was inflation. Now it's running at nearly 8% a year, and that's just not unsustainable. The American public can't tolerate that. Everyone should realize that when you inject several $1 trillion into the economy, it cheapens the value of the money in supply, and that's one of the root causes of inflation. And during the pandemic, we just sent out trillions of dollars in checks to help people, but that causes a problem later on. So Republicans need to talk about fiscal restraint and reduce government spending. That means cutting some programs. In my experience, these programs build constituencies that benefit from those government handouts, and they don't like losing them. But reasonable voters will also understand that spending must be brought under control, or inflation will just continue. The second was gas prices, and that's part of the inflationary pressure. But oil selling for over $100 a barrel is just responding to supply and demand. When Biden campaigned, he sent strong signals that he intended to attack any fossil fuel industry. He was bowing to the left and the climate activists. Republicans need to take a twofold attack on this problem. First, increasing the supply of energy by removing Biden-era restrictions on drilling and exploration. Get the United States back to being energy independent. At the same time, make necessary investments in renewable energy sources. Voters understand that we need to have energy now and also have to be preparing for the future. A two-pronged program will show them that Republicans are taking steps to lower current energy costs, both gas and electric, and that will also help with inflation. Renewables like wind and solar are great, but we are years away from having sufficient technology to use them alone. Europe is turning back to nuclear power, and so should the United States. It's a safe, clean form of energy, and despite some of the problems in the past, the new technologies out there make it a safe and reliable source of energy, and we need to start getting back to it. Crime is an issue. American voters want to feel safe where they live. In all too many cities, crime is out of control, and the left-wing mayors and left-wing district attorneys seem oblivious to the problem. They blame it on everything but the root problem, lack of enforcement. Criminals are being sent the message that they can commit crimes and there's little to no punishment. How absurd is it to just tell people not to wear jewelry or nice clothes when they go out? How nuts is it to excuse carjacking? And the next time someone like AOC or some other progressive tells you they're just stealing because they need things, ask them how many of them need a store full of expensive purses. Republicans need to let the community know they are giving the resources to law enforcement to do their job, to get them better trained, to get them ready to combat the problem of public safety, that they're going to elect and support district attorneys that will prosecute criminal behavior, and they're going to elect mayors that are going to dictate that it be enforced. Immigration is another issue. Now, I don't think it's an understatement that it's reached chaotic status and that the Biden administration simply has no plan to control the border. They campaigned by sending signals to illegal immigrants that the border would be open, and millions have surged across. They don't just come from the northern triangle of Central America or Mexico. They're coming from around the world. They simply have to get to Mexico and they can walk across. Even Democratic members of Congress are getting nervous about what's occurring at the border. Senator Raphael Warnock, Democrat from Georgia, is losing in the polls to Herschel Walker, the Republican candidate, and suddenly he says something has to be done. In Arizona, Mark Kelly is finally getting his head out of the sand and saying that border security needs to be an issue. Where has he been for the last 18 months? Silence where he's been. Catherine Cortez Masto, the senator from Nevada, is being pushed by her challenger, Adam Laxalt, and now she wants to see a policy by the Biden people. Even as far north as New Hampshire, where immigrants are being transported, it's become an issue, and Maggie Hassan is now demanding something be done. It's no coincidence that polling shows their race is getting closer. Others like Joe Manchin, Mark Warner, Kirsten Sinema and John Tester are speaking out even though they're not up for re-election. But they see the handwriting on the wall. The American public wants voters to do something and do it now. Republicans need to develop a comprehensive immigration strategy, not just build a wall. They need to modernize the current law and then vigorously enforce that law when it's passed. That will take bipartisan support, but it's growing on the Democratic side. The final issue is education. You know, Democrats are between a rock and a hard spot on this one. The teachers' unions want total control of schools and therefore the education system. The woke crowd on the left wants indoctrination of young children on LGBTQ issues. They want it from kindergarten to third grade in some states now. If Democrats give in to the unions and the woke crowd, they eliminate parents who believe it is their role to teach their children about many of these controversial issues. If they give in to the parents, the hard left will scream and yell. Republicans have found their ground on this issue, and it's the Democrats that have been floundering. There are parents across the country that are mobilizing, getting ready to take on politicians and tell them they will have a say in their children's education. And school boards aren't the only target. It's elected members of political offices from the state and local level all the way up to Congress. These are the issues that the American voters want addressed. There are others, but I've just mentioned 5 of them. Republicans cannot simply run against Biden. They have to offer their own vision of how to fix things, and that will help them get elected and stay in power. This has been To My Liberal Friends. Thanks for listening.